A very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I am Aishwarya Kapoor with you. Well, India will review the MFN status to Pakistan. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to chair a high-level meet today. Well, that is the big story that we are tracking this morning. Also, all the details on the Kaveri water row. Now, Uma Bharti, Karnataka Chief Minister and Tamil Nadu Minister are going to meet in the national capital today. All the details on that as well. Let us begin with other top stories in the headlines. Prime Minister to review most favoured nation status to Pakistan at meeting today. Government to explore option of taking Pakistan to World Trade Organization. Nepal asks member nations to create a conducive atmosphere for conducting the SARC Summit slated to be held in Islamabad. This after 4 nations including India decide to boycott the summit. Vice President calls terrorism the biggest source of human rights violation. During day 2 of his Nigeria visit, calls for restructuring of global legal framework to fight terror. Centre calls meeting of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu leaders to find a political solution to the Kaveri row. Karnataka has deferred the release of water despite Supreme Court's order. And the United States threatens to exit Syria peace talks if Russia does not stop bombing of Aleppo and restore ceasefire. Hospitals the target of Wednesday's bombing, with ICUs being rendered unfit for use. Our top story this morning, seeking to step up pressure on Pakistan. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has convened a meeting today to review the most favoured nation status given to the neighbouring country. Well, the government may explore the option of taking Pakistan to the World Trade Organization for refusing to reciprocate the most favoured nation status.
India is mulling a calibrated response to the recent terrorist attack on the Uri military camp. As opposed to military action, India wants to weigh its economic options to corner Pakistan. Withdrawing the most favoured nation status of 1996 is one of these measures.
Largely what the government is trying to do is to build a narrative about isolating Pakistan and about making a case to the world community that Pakistan has not behaved very rationally, very normally towards its neighbour.
Most favoured nation is a status granted by a trading partner to any country under the WTO. It gives equal treatment in terms of trading prices and market access. Although as a reciprocal measure, Pakistan agreed to grant India the MFN status during a secretary-level agreement in 2012. It has so far not kept its promise, missing several deadlines on the way. Of the total Indian merchandise trade of $643 billion in 2015-16, Pakistan accounted for just $2.67 billion. India's exports to Pakistan in 2015-16 amounted to $2.17 billion, or just 0.83% of total Indian exports, while imports were $497 million, or 0.13% of total inward shipments. India mainly exports pearls, cereals, cotton and rubber to Pakistan, while major Indian imports from Pakistan include mineral fuels, fruits and nuts. The value of trade with Pakistan is also less than the value of India's trade with other neighbours like Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka.
Official trade between the two countries is less than 0.5%, but the fact remains that through unofficial channels, through Dubai or the Hong Kong route, the trade between the two countries is much more.
The ruling and the opposition parties have joined ranks on stepping up economic and diplomatic offensive against Pakistan.
We cannot say that it will be completely done away with MFN status to Pakistan, but the government will think on all pros and cons and then take a call or decisions.
Pakistan is more interested in trade of terror, and they are more interested in moving guns across the border than the goods. This is one of the major diplomatic moves that Government of India should have done by now.
Government now has a crisis to quell, a plan to devise to isolate Pakistan economically while choosing to retaliate peacefully. After reviewing the Indus Water Treaty, decision to review MFN status will send a strong message from New Delhi to Islamabad on India's intent to isolate Pakistan. Experts also say that India can step up pressure on Pakistan by withdrawing concessions provided under South Asian Free Trade Area Agreement. Reporting from Delhi with camera person Shamlal, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, on to some other news. The Nepal, the current chair of the SARC Summit, has asked member nations to create a conducive atmosphere for conducting the summit. Now, the prospect of the 19th SARC Summit slated to be held in November in Islamabad looks bleak, with 4 nations, including India, pulling out. Now, Pakistan has also hinted that the summit may be postponed.
The 19th SARC Summit is slated to take place in Islamabad in November this year. But with India and 3 other nations pulling out of the summit, the future of this year's meet looks bleak. India has conveyed to Nepal, the SARC chair, that it will not participate in the summit this year, citing increased cross-border attacks.
In the current case, as you know, not just India, but Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Bhutan have also written to the current chair of SARC, that is Nepal, that they are unable to participate in the SARC summit, which means there is no option but to postpone the summit. However, a formal announcement to this effect can only be made by Nepal after they have done their internal consultation. We have made it very clear that regional cooperation and terror cannot go hand in hand. Our commitment to SARC, to regional connectivity, to regional contacts, regional prosperity remains intact, but we cannot conceive of a SARC summit happening at the same time as cross-border terrorism continues, as gross interference in our internal affairs continues.
Soon after India's announcement of boycotting the summit, 3 more countries followed suit. Bangladesh, Bhutan and Afghanistan also sent letters to the chairperson of SARC, citing different reasons for pulling out. While Bhutan cited the issue of terrorism, Afghanistan and Bangladesh categorically said their decision was due to growing interference from Pakistan in their internal affairs.
Bangladesh did not take part at the ministerial level in both Home and Finance Ministers' conference. So it was almost a foregone conclusion that our Prime Minister may not attend the SARC summit in Islamabad. But we still had kept our options open. But after the Uri attack, the situation as it prevails in the region, we believe is not conducive towards holding a successful holding of the SARC summit. So basically what we are saying, we have to defer the SARC summit for a better time when peace and tranquility will be restored in order.
A similar decision may be expected from Sri Lanka. The country's Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will be arriving in New Delhi on October 4, and the issue is likely to come up during his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Nepal, the current chair of the SARC, has urged member nations to create a conducive atmosphere for conducting the summit in line with the spirit of the SARC Charter. India has been pressing hard in its efforts to isolate Pakistan internationally on issues like terrorism and its growing interference in the internal affairs of member countries.
और बड़ा अच्छा हुआ है कि अफगानिस्तान ने, भूटान ने, नेपाल सहित के देशों ने पाकिस्तान में सार्क परिषद में नहीं जाने का निर्णय लेने जाने की जो बात सामने आ रही है, ये भारत सरकार की, प्रधानमंत्री जी की बहुत बड़ी सफलता है।
सार्क कंट्रीज में इतने बड़े वसाइल हैं, नेपाल के पास अलग, बांग्लादेश के पास अलग, पाकिस्तान के पास अलग, अफगानिस्तान के पास अलग, हमारे मुल्क के पास अलग, भूटान के पास अलग। अगर हम जिस तरह हम अपने दरियाओं का पानी एक दूसरे के लिए इस्तेमाल करते थे, इसी तरह हमारे पास बहुत कुछ था कि हम मिलकर उसको इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, मगर नहीं हुआ।
After initially saying that it will go ahead with the event as planned, Pakistan has hinted the summit could be postponed. Pakistan PM's advisor on foreign affairs Sartaj Aziz said, as per SARC rules, the summit will not be held if any member country refuses to attend.
Pakistan's actions and attitudes had been anti-SARC for long. It will be interesting to see whether Pakistan mends its ways or the member countries creates another organization to give a boost to the regional cooperation. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Sabha Television in Delhi.
Well, Pakistan troops targeted Indian positions with small firearms along the line of control in Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir yesterday. And there have been, however, no reports of loss of life or injury to anyone in the firing. Pakistan has continued to provoke in the days following the Uri terror attack. On 20th of September, 2 days after the terror attack, Pakistani troops violated the border ceasefire in the same sector of Kashmir, targeting Indian Army positions with small firearms. On 6th of September, Pakistani Army again pounded Indian positions with 120 millimeters of mortar bombs and firing along the line of control in Poonch district. On 2nd of September, earlier Pakistani troops had resorted to ceasefire violation by firing on forward army posts along the LOC in Akhnur sector in the Jammu district. Moving on, the Parliamentary Committee on Home Affairs has decided to take up urgently the review of border security in the wake of the Uri attack. Now, following heightened tensions with Pakistan, the committee has also decided to review internal security capabilities as well. The newly constituted committee, headed by former Home Minister P. Chidambaram, which met for the first time on Wednesday, decided to have meetings on 6th and 13th of October to discuss the subjects. Now, PTI is quoting sources as saying that on 13th of October, Home Minister Rajnath Singh and Home Secretary Rajiv Mehrishi are expected to attend the meeting of the committee. At the first meeting of the committee, opposition members pressed to discussing urgently the issues of border security and internal security in the country. The opposition members, including Derek O'Brien of Trinamool Congress, Sitaram Yechuri of CPIM, wanted to know about the proposals of police modernization, which has been hanging fire for very long. And in related news, an extensive search operation continues in Pathankot after local residents there spotted 4 suspicious-looking men dressed in army uniform. During Tuesday night search operation, police recovered some army uniforms, caps and belts discarded in the bushes. Now, an alert has also been sounded on the Pathankot-Dalhousie Road and Jalandhar-Pathankot Highway, where key defence installations are located. Around 400 security personnel, including a SWAT team, have also been deployed for conducting the search operation. Neighbouring Himachal Pradesh is also on high alert.
On the basis of the intelligence gathering, what we have found is that we need to search some more areas, just to clear our doubts and make it sure कि वहाँ पे ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, कोई किसी का presence नहीं है, किसी terrorist का, so that they are not able to strike and cause any damage. So as such, it's a joint operation by the Himachal Police, and I think बहुत जल्दी हम इस operation को शुरू करके we'll search the hills, we'll search the banks of Chakki and the hamlets around, just to clear any doubt and make it sure that nothing is there.
Well, news from down south, where leaders of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu will meet with Water Resources Minister Uma Bharti today to discuss the escalating Kaveri River water sharing problem ahead of the next Supreme Court hearing on the issue on Friday. Here are the details.
Union Water Resources Minister Uma Bharti will meet ministers of warring states Karnataka and Tamil Nadu today to find a political solution to the impasse over the Kaveri water dispute. This after the apex court directed the centre to facilitate a meeting with both the states within this week. The next Supreme Court hearing on the Kaveri water issue is scheduled for Friday. While Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah will attend the meeting, Tamil Nadu's Public Works Department Minister E.K. Palaniswamy will represent the state. Earlier on Wednesday, the Karnataka government deferred the release of Kaveri water to Tamil Nadu once again, defying the Supreme Court's directive to release 6,000 cusecs of water for 3 days, citing acute water shortage.
Direction by the legislature also, and also the direction given by the Honorable Supreme Court. We'll discuss tomorrow in the meeting of the Chief Ministers, and afterwards let us see what is going to be, what will be the decision come out.
In Tamil Nadu, the opposition DMK urged Prime Minister Narendra Modi to chair the proposed meeting of the two chief ministers to break the impasse on the release of water. Congress MPs from Karnataka have also demanded the Prime Minister's intervention in the matter.
When there is a problem between the states, it is the responsibility of the central government, it is the responsibility of the Prime Minister to solve it. So because they have failed, the Supreme Court has given direction to the Government of India to call for the states and convene this meeting. If the central government itself done that, then there is no necessity of the Supreme Court to call for to give such a direction.
According to newspaper reports from Karnataka, the state government has officially declared Madikeri and Virajpet, the source of Kaveri and its primary catchment in Kodagu, as drought hit. Karnataka, for the period from 28th of August to 3rd of September this year, has recorded deficient rainfall of 60%. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, time to take a very short break here. We'll be back with more news. Stay tuned.
The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. These charred bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand.
Welcome back. You're watching the Breakfast News. Well, on the second leg of his West Africa trip, Vice President Hamid Ansari will leave for Mali from Nigeria today. In Nigeria, Vice President called for restructuring the legal framework by advocating a comprehensive convention on international terrorism. Vice President Hamid Ansari has targeted Pakistan by reiterating that state-sponsored terrorism can never be tolerated. Addressing officers of the National Defence College in Abuja in Nigeria, the Vice President said that the use of terrorism as an instrument of state policy must be unequivocally condemned.
As developing nations with global aspirations, both Nigeria and India face similar security challenges ranging from climate change and diverse societal needs, which have been compounded by the spread of terror and newer fora of insecurity in our region.
On day 2 of his Nigeria visit, the Vice President called upon all nations to unite to counter terror through diplomacy.
Effective diplomacy is an important alternative to excessive defense spending. Therefore, it is important to devise methods of effectively participating in international fora, in influencing world opinion, and striving to make such mechanisms more representative, more consensual, and more effective.
The Vice President also said that the long-standing defence relations between India and Nigeria should be harnessed not only for economic and defence purpose of the two nations, but also for the larger good of the world.
Africa and Asia respectively, and as we march ahead in our quest for economic and military security, collaborative efforts born out of mutual trust can be leveraged effectively to achieve our strategic goals.
The Vice President called terrorism one of the biggest sources of human rights violations. Asserting that terrorism can only be defeated by organized global action, the Vice President also called for restructuring the legal framework by adopting the Comprehensive Convention on International Terrorism. This is Amrita Rai and Anu Diwan's report for Rajya Sabha TV. Let's move on in the bulletin. Well, Cabinet has given its approval to ratify the Paris Agreement on climate change on 2nd of October. Productivity-linked bonus equivalent to 78 days wages to eligible non-gazetted railway employees for the financial year 2015-16 was also cleared by the Cabinet. The Union Cabinet on Wednesday decided that India will ratify the Paris Agreement on climate change on 2nd October. The agreement was adopted by 185 nations on 12th December 2015 and signed by 191 countries.
हम मानते हैं कि महात्मा गांधी जी दुनिया के सबसे प्रमुख विचारवंत ऐसे थे जो पर्यावरण की चिंता करते थे और उन्होंने दुनिया को एक मार्गदर्शन किया था और इसलिए 2 अक्टूबर को यूएन अपना कार्यालय खुला रखेगा और भारत की ये स्वीकृति उस दिन वहां दी जाएगी और फिर ये रैटिफाई होगा और रैटिफाई होने से अब एक तरह से अपरिवर्तनीय बन गया है पेरिस समझौता.
In other decisions, the Cabinet also approved the closure of Hindustan Cable Limited in Kolkata.
फैक्ट्री अब चल नहीं सकती है तो उसको जबरदस्ती चलाएंगे नहीं, लेकिन मजदूरों का नुकसान नहीं होना चाहिए और इसलिए द एम्प्लॉयज विल बी ऑफर्ड अट्रैक्टिव VRS VSS पैकेज at 2007 pay scales and employees related liabilities including payment of salary wages from April 15. लगभग 4700 करोड़ का एक पैकेज दिया है. इससे सुचारू रूप से कंपनी बंद होगी और कर्मचारियों का कोई भी भुगतान बाकी नहीं रहेगा.
The CCEA also approved financial assistance for retired employees of Allahabad-based Bharat Pumps and Compressor Limited, administrative and financial sanction to implement the project Saksham, acquisition of stakes in 2 Russian oil firms. The cabinet also gave the green signal to productivity-linked bonus equivalent to 78 days' wages to 13 lakh railway employees for the financial year 2015-2016. Vishal Daya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Now on to news on the viral outbreak in the national capital. Now 2 more deaths due to dengue have been reported in the national capital, with the total death toll touching 21. Well, according to a municipal report, the total number of dengue cases in Delhi has gone up to 1,692, with 921 of them being reported this month itself. The deaths, which occurred recently, were at the Safdarjung Hospital and the other at the Lok Nayak Jayaprakash Hospital. Well, as per reports, last year the city saw 15,867 dengue cases, the worst in 20 years, with the disease claiming 60 lives. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court had earlier sought response from the Delhi government on the rising cases of dengue in the national capital. Well, on to some international news now. Well, the United States has threatened to suspend bilateral talks with Russia on Syria unless Moscow stops the bombing of Aleppo and restores a ceasefire. Now, in a phone call with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, US Secretary of State John Kerry said that the US held Russia responsible for the use of incendiary and bunker bombs against the city. On Wednesday, 2 hospitals in eastern Aleppo were partially bombed, putting their intensive care units out of use. Now, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and Pope Francis have denounced the attacks on hospitals as war crimes. However, Russian Deputy Ambassador to the United Nations has said that the trend of Russia being blamed for the attacks in Syria must stop. But Moscow says it would now send its diplomats to Geneva to talk to the US about normalizing the situation in Aleppo. The UNICEF has said that at least 96 children had been killed and 223 injured in eastern Aleppo since Friday. Hundreds of airstrikes have rocked the beleaguered city since the Syrian government, backed by Russia, announced a renewed offensive on Thursday. US and Russia have been locked in talks in an attempt to revive the peace agreement.
M2, it may be function again after 2 days after fixing the damage. But regarding M10, the damages are so huge, and we didn't know how many it will take to fix the damages. And by the way, M10 is the biggest trauma hospital in eastern Aleppo city, and those 2 hospitals are 2 of the only 3 trauma hospitals in Aleppo city. Now Aleppo city is served, eastern Aleppo city is served by only trauma center. This is M1 hospital.
They know they are committing war crimes. Imagine a slaughterhouse. This is worse. Even a slaughterhouse is more humane. Hospitals, clinics, ambulances, and medical staff in Aleppo are under attack around the clock.
В провинциях Алеппо и Хама отряды оппозиции, воспользовавшись 7-дневным перемирием, пополнили запасы боеприпасов и вооружения, осуществили перегруппировку и перешли к активным наступательным действиям с целью захвата новых территорий.
And the US Congress has rejected President Barack Obama's veto of a Saudi 9/11 lawsuits bill. Well, this is the first veto override of his presidency. On Wednesdays, the Senate voted 97-1 and the House of Representatives 348 to 77, meaning that the bill becomes a law. The bill, known as the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism or JASTA, allows families of 9/11 victims to sue Saudi Arabian officials now. Meanwhile, Obama has called the Congress's move a mistake. Obama said that while the victims of 9/11 deserved support and compensation, he said he doesn't believe the ability to sue Saudi Arabia will be good for the long-term future of the United States. The president argued that the bill could expose US companies, troops and officials to potential lawsuits abroad. Earlier, Obama had argued in his veto that the bill would undermine US-Saudi relations and warned of tit-for-tat lawsuits against US service members in places like Afghanistan and Iraq. 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi nationals, but the oil-rich kingdom, a key US ally, has denied any role in the attacks, which left nearly 3,000 people dead. Obama has issued 12 vetoes during the 2 terms of his presidency, but until now, none had been overridden.
The Saudi government, or at least organizations and operatives within the Saudi government, aided and abetted one of the most massive crimes in the United States. In our system, the truth behind those facts deserves to be presented in court.
I've read President Obama's veto message. He cites concerns that the bill would, quote, create complications, close quote, he says, with some of our close partners. But the truth is, JASTA only targets foreign governments who sponsor terrorist attacks on American soil, plain and simple. I don't know how that would create complications with some of our close partners.
Well, news from the Middle East. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries on Wednesday reached an agreement to cut production by 750,000 barrels a day. Now, the news triggered an immediate spike of more than 5% in crude prices, as markets had expected the Algiers meet to end without an agreement. In London, benchmark Brent North Sea crude for November delivery rose from $2.72 to $48.69, while in New York, a barrel of West Texas Intermediate was up $2.38 to $47.05. Now, I beg your pardon, OPEC members, whose countries produce 40% of the world's crude oil, agreed to cut their output by 32.5 million barrels per day. An informal OPEC meeting opened in Algiers to discuss a possible freeze in output by the cards, with the aim of raising prices, which have fallen by more than half since mid-2014. However, Iran has argued it should be exempt from such limitation as its production recovers after the lifting of EU sanctions earlier this year. How much each country will produce is to be decided at the next formal meeting in November.
The time has come to reinforce our
came up with a way forward that is to consider targeting 32.5 to 33 million barrel per day target, and we agreed on having a high-level technical committee of all OPEC members to study the mechanism of sharing the production at individual countries level from now till the 30th of November, to be presented to the next meeting in Vienna.
2.5 years, we had a very constructive agreement in OPEC, and it means that OPEC can overcome to the many very difficult situations.
Well, that's all in this edition of news. Thanks for watching.